The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Arcane Wonders, Game Toppers, mysterious blue icicle glitches, and listeners like you.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Gateway City, St. Louis, Missouri, it's The Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board, card, and occasionally role-playing games. Today, the Dukes review Kennerspiel nominee Detective by Portal Games. Then they'll be looking back at their review of Altiplano in their Dukes Double Take. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And also Alex.
Alex, welcome back to the podcast again.
Thanks. This is the third time we've tried to start an episode?
Something like that. Yeah. Hey, this is episode 202, which we're calling The Game is a Hoof.
The game is a hoof.
It is a hoof. Not a foot, Alex. Not a foot, but a hoof.
Yes.
Which is a fantastic name title, episode title, thanks to Ben Ogden. Of course, we're talking about Detective, so there's a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes reference in there. And we're talking about Altiplano, which we haven't decided if they're llamas or alpaca, but either way, either one of those animals have hooves instead of foots, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the right word. Foots.
Yep. Foots. It's fine. It works out. So not only were we having some technical issues getting started, Alex, but we're also delayed a bit recording because of some issues you may have had while being a jet setter.
Oh, may have had. No, definitely had. I definitely had those issues. So let me tell you a story, Sean.
Wait, you're doing this. Hold on.
What?
So I'm gonna get very meta here. You're doing the voice that you did in the first recording. That
sure.
You then were like, I don't know that this voice was working out for this purpose. But go on.
No, continue. I said I'll do it a lot more. I said I would do a lot more of that voice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, go on, old-timey prospector.
Well, let me tell you, Sean, it was back in the summer, about a week ago, and I hopped aboard a plane to get out to good old Birmingham, England. But of course, we had to make a couple pit stops along the way. Flew Delta Airlines to Atlanta, and then Atlanta to Amsterdam. But then we ran into a little bit of a snafu, you might say. Bit of a sticky toffee situation.
This is much worse than the last time. It's
Anyway, switching back again, we switched airlines in Amsterdam to Flybe, which is a budget airline. So my two carry-on bags became two checked bags, one of which they lost for 36 hours. That one happened to be the one with my microphone, my laptop, all my clothes. And so the time where we would have been able to record the episode, we were not able to record the episode because I didn't have any of my stuff for a good chunk of time. So that's the story.
That's no good.
Quite a sticky toffee situation that one was.
Well, speaking of sticky toffee situation, Alex, we have got to record this episode because I am scheduled to take the family to Brain Freeze Festival, where there is all-you-can-eat ice cream, apparently, and Chewie is ready to go. She's like going to be knocking on the door, like, "Let's go,
yeah,
Dad, let's go."
Oh boy, that's gonna be a handful later on.
No, it's fine. She'll be. What could go wrong? Eating ice cream in the hot sun.
What could possibly go wrong? Well, I am recording this on Sunday as well. We're not recording this on different days, in case anyone was worried that would be the case.
Perfect.
Here in St. Louis.
Nailed it.
Where tonight is Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. So by the time most people are hearing this, the St. Louis Blues could be Stanley Cup champions, or they could have to maybe wait until Game 7. We'll see what happens tonight against the Boston Bruins. I am very anticipation for that one. So, yep, that's what's going down. Let's talk about some games, Sean.
Yes, let's talk about some games. So, Alex, since we're reviewing one of the Kennerspiel nominees, I thought it would be good for me to get all of the regular Spiel, the Spiel des Jahres nominees played. So there were the three nominees, just one, LAMA and Werewords. And of the three, Werewords was the only one that I played. So we had a Dukes of Dice Wednesday night. This was actually a couple Wednesdays ago at this point, and we had some newer people in the group, and so we just went back to back to back. We played Just One, then Werewords, then LAMA, all together, all within the space of an hour, maybe a little bit more, because they're all fairly short games. So now I have played all three. I can now tell you which one is my favorite, and I can also tell you which one I think is probably going to win. So Werewords, we've talked about on the show a bunch before. It's sort of a 20 questions game, but there's hidden roles, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great game. Just One is a game that you've been pretty crazy about, Alex. And,
yes, sir.
And this is, so it's a cooperative game, and basically everyone at the table knows what one word they're trying to get the guesser to guess. That person doesn't know the word, obviously. And so what they have to do is provide just one clue a one-word clue to that person so that they can guess the word. But the trick is if you duplicate your clue, so if the word is fire, and I write hydrant and Alex, you write hydrant, we actually have to erase those, and the guesser doesn't get to see them. So you have to kind of give some slightly off clues or clues that are a little bit outside the box, just so that you're not wiping each other out. And then you do this till you go through the deck. We didn't go through the deck. We got a feel for it, and it's good. It's fun. It's certainly something that I would pick to play in that type of situation again, where we have a bunch of newer people and we're kind of waiting for other people to show up before we can break off into other games. So I liked it. I wasn't necessarily crazy about it, but I would certainly play it again. And then LAMA, this is a Reiner Knizia game from Amigo Spiel, I believe. We didn't play the actual LAMA. Eugene made a proxy deck out of it, which is fine. It's pretty simple, and we got the hang of the game. Basically, there's a deck of cards, and it's a series of, I believe it's 1s to 6s, and I think there's 6 of each, and then there are 6 LAMA cards. And so on your turn, what you're going to do is you're hopefully going to play to the top of the face-up pile. You can play the same number. So if there's a 3 on the pile, you can play a 3, or you could play one above it, a 4. When you get to the 6, you could either play a 1 or a LAMA. If you can't play, you can choose to draw a card, or you can choose to go out for the round, but any cards you have in your hand are worth points at the end of the game. So for example, if I had 1 6 and 3 2s, I would have 8 points, because the collection of 2s just count as face value for the collection, not for each individual card. And so there's some interesting decisions you have to make, because there are times when you can voluntarily choose to just go out, because maybe you have a lowish hand of cards. But also, sometimes you're like, well, maybe I need to stay in this round because I have a really high value of cards. So I'll draw another card. Hopefully it's a good card. It sounds really simple, and it sounds like, I don't know, like some kind of Uno variant, but I think there's some pretty interesting underlying strategy here. And I think it's a pretty good game, and I'm interested to play it more, because I feel like I only scratched the surface on some of the decisions. And I think it's deceptively simple. There's more going on to this game than you get from just kind of a first impression. So I'm excited to try that some more. So yeah, that's those are my 3 plays. Of the 3, I think that Werewords is probably my personal favorite. It's the one that I've gotten the most enjoyment out of. I will say it's kind of fun to play with a group of people that you know. I had a ton of fun playing this at not this last Arizona Game Fair, but the Arizona Game Fair the time before that, where it was at the end of the night, and we were at Ellie's house and we were playing it there. It's a lot of fun. So that's my personal pick. I think that LAMA is going to win the Spiel, though.
Really?
That's my guess.
Huh.
So it's Reiner Knizia. It is the non-party game. Not that a party game can't win. Not that party games haven't won. But well, actually, wait, has a true party game won?
I'd have to look it up.
but I think Llama's going to be the winner. And now I can say that with an educated opinion because I've played everything.
Now I need to play it to know for sure. I will say this: last year, The Mind was sort of the party nominee. That didn't win. Magic Maze was the party nominee the year before. That didn't win. Let's see. Codenames is one. I'd call that more of a party game.
Yeah.
Colt Express is more of a party game if you play it right. Anyway, I don't think it's impossible for a party game to win. My pick still is just one. I still think just one will end up winning. But I agree with you that Werewords is my favorite game of the three. And not that I've played the third one yet. So maybe I'll like Llama just fine. I just checked, by the way, my Amazon DE shipping status, not realizing that it's not going to be here until sometime between June 24th and July 3rd. Something like that. So I won't have an educated opinion on this thing for a while, unless I happen to play it at Origins.
Or, Alex, if you wanted, you could just make up your own llama cards that we used in our Arboretum deck. And then just the 7s were llamas, and Eugenia had little paste ups that he slipped into the sleeves. So
What do I look like? Someone who works for a board game publisher with access to all sorts of prototyping materials? Psh.
Yeah. So
Whatever.
that is just one llama and Werewords.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, for my first trick during this recent plays segment, I'm actually going to toss it over to a pre-recorded segment I did when I thought the only new plays I'd be able to get in would be the one I got in with Abby, my girlfriend. So let's give that a listen. Coming to you live from St. Louis, it's everyone's favorite show, That's So Abby. Bum, 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 starring Abby. Da, 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 and little Rexy. Da, 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 da. It's Abby.
What? Little Rexy?
Yeah.
What's that?
I don't know. I just made it up.
Okay.
Maybe it's the future name of our pet.
No. No.
Just no.
It's a bad one.
So, Abby, I've brought you onto the podcast yet again because all of my new plays for this most recent episode are games I played with you. And there's only one we're going to talk about in this segment. Exit the Game, the Sinister Mansion. You had done an escape room for the very first time not too terribly long ago, back in Florida earlier this year. And this was meant as an escape room in a box, for folks who don't know. It won the Kennerspiel de Char a couple of years back. This was your first taste of this kind of a board game, a truly impermanent kind of a game. What did you think?
Yeah, I dug it. It was good. I liked it. It was fun. Yeah. He's giving me a look like, really? That's all you're going to say? This is a show about board games. No, it was fun. I think it captured the escape room kind of vibe. I think particularly for us, we sort of used the hint clues sooner than I would if I was in a real room situation. I would have wanted to try harder to figure it out than like shout at the disembodied man to ask for help. But also, you know, when there's only the two of us and we only have so much stuff in front of us, there's a moment where you're kind of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. So
we got through it ultimately in about an hour and 40 minutes, which not too shabby. We used, about 4 or 5 hint cards, I think we counted up by the end of it. What about it made it so fun? I know you tend to enjoy jigsaw puzzles before you got into games with me. That was a thing. Did it give you that kind of puzzly feel you crave? Yeah,
it gives the puzzly feel. It doesn't have like those traditional like game mechanics where you're like, you do something, then you roll a dice, then I do something. Then like it's like very much feels very different than any other board game. It just happens to come with similar components.
So we one of the things about this kind of a game too is certainly the puzzles are great until they're frustrating. Was the hint system enough? Were the puzzles fair in your opinion at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think because in almost every situation except for one that I can think of, when we used the hints, we were already on that right track. It was like we just could not figure out how to make it work for us, and then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, and then it all clicked into place. So it seemed totally doable.
Without spoiling anything, the one cool thing I find about the exit games compared to some other escape room games I've played is that these games are very efficient in how they use their components. I don't want to spoil any solutions to any puzzles, but almost nothing in that box is wasted as far as a gameplay experience, which I find really cool. It's some of the tricks they've used in that are just incredibly well done. I enjoyed this one more than I enjoyed the Pharaoh's Tomb one, though maybe it was just the company.
Aw, sweet.
You sweet. You sweet sassy Abby.
No, yeah, I liked it. I think I probably did / we did better because you had done one of these before, so you kind of knew what they use and what to expect, whereas I think had I been doing it alone or doing it with people who also had not done a game like this before, it might have taken us over an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, I'd say this one probably wouldn't be your best first one to do, just because of the nature of some of the puzzles. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but I wouldn't go to the Sinister Mansion as a first one unless you have someone who's played one of these games from this series before. So, all right, Abby, we'll get to this a little bit later on as well. But we talked about the Abby scale this weekend. We came up with the Abby scale. So the Dukes of Dice rate things on a 6-point scale, 1 being bad, bad, very bad, 6 being good, good, very good. There's an Abby version of this scale.
There is.
So run me through that scale.
So we're going from heck yeah to sure to okay to no.
Okay. Now, where does Exit the Game fall on that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a solid yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good score. That translates on the Duke scale to a 5. So not a heck yeah, but a yeah.
Yeah.
You would, and I think you told me after we finished this is something that you would be fine if I bought another couple of these for us to play through together.
100%. Yep.
Very cool. Well, that's so Abby, and that's Abby. We'll catch up with you later.
Thanks.
So yeah, yet again, pleasant surprise that Abby really dug Targi. I wasn't sure that was going to be quite her weight at this stage of her gaming career, but she dug it, and I'm happy I have it.
Cool. Well, the last game that I'll talk about is Tide of Iron, which is a hex war game with some miniatures. This came out in 2007 from Fantasy Flight Games. I picked up the Fantasy Flight coffin box of this with a bunch of expansions at Dice Tower Con. When's the last one I went to? Did I miss the last 2?
Yeah, I think so.
So I picked this up 2 or 3 years ago at Dice Tower Con in the flea market, and it sat on the shelf, and it was June 6th, a couple days before recording, was D-Day. So to commemorate it, we brought Tide of Iron to the shop, and I got to play it with Chris Holm. Originally, we were going to play like a 4-player game, and then we were going to play a 3-player game, and then Nick dropped out to go play with Matthew. And so it was just me and Chris, and we played the intro scenario of Tide of Iron. And here's what I'll say about it. This is a midway point between a Memoir 44, which is a little bit more on the simpler side, and, say, Combat Commander, which is kind of an entry point tactical war game on the heavier side, if that makes sense. So this is kind of in the middle. And what's really interesting is you are creating squads out of your miniatures. You have these little squad bases, and there are holes for 4 miniatures. And so there's regular troops, there's elite troops, there's heavy weapons teams, there's machine gun teams, mortars, there's a couple tanks, there's some vehicles. So there's a lot going on here. And depending on how you build your squads, they're going to get certain bonuses for doing different things. What was really different about this game was whenever you're attacking your opponent, you have to decide if you're going to be doing normal fire or suppressive fire. And suppressive fire has an effect on morale, which can eventually make the unit rout and just they flee and they're gone. Normal fire works, just to remove models from the stand in a pretty standard way that you would expect. And so it was interesting decisions because there's this nice I go, you go aspect of it where there's this nice ebb and flow. So I activate 3 units and then you activate 3 units. Then I activate 3 units, then you activate 3 units. Rather than like I move all of my forces or I get a full turn and then you do. So it was interesting. And I think we probably got some of the rules wrong. We were probably like 85, 90% correct. But I enjoyed it and I appreciate it for being a little bit more complex than Memoir, or a decent amount more complex than Memoir. And it might serve as like a good stepping stone if someone wanted to get into, say, a Combat Commander or some other more complex tactical war game. And it looked great on the table. The component quality on this stuff, like really thick map boards, which was really nice. The minis were fine. And yeah, it was, I really liked it. Alex, you would love this game. Just kidding. No,
Would I?
No, you wouldn't.
Okay.
You would not.
I didn't think so.
You barely tolerate Memoir.
That's not true. I had fun with Memoir. I'm not very good at it, but I had fun with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. I think, yeah, no, you wouldn't like this game.
All right. Fair enough.
But I liked it, and I've got a ton of it. So, yeah, I'll break it out some more and see what I think. So that's an oldie, sort of, Tide of Iron.
Awesome. Well, at UKGE, I did not play much, Sean. I was working the Monochromatic Wolf booth pretty much full-time, demoing stuff, selling stuff. Our signage didn't make it there, so it was a little hard for people to find us, but thanks to the few listeners who stopped by and said hi and chatted. Always fun to see folks across the pond. I did get to play one new game, and that is Lanterns Dice. Sean, have you tried this one out yet?
I have not.
This is a Lanterns roll and write. Lanterns, I remember, I haven't played Lanterns in a very long time. Basically where you're sitting at the table had some sort of effect on the game. It was kind of puzzly, but fairly light. So I don't recall the exact rules to Lanterns. It's been that long. So I can't tell you how Lanterns Dice compares to, say, Lanterns. I can tell you on its own, though, Lanterns Dice is pretty interesting. What you're going to do is you are going to roll 4 dice, and then you're going to orient the tray in whatever way you want. In a 4-player game, you want to orient it so that each player gets 1 die to use that's placed in front of them. So I might want the green one in front of me and put the orange one in front of someone else, blue in front of someone else, and orange in front of someone else. So be it. Then everyone's going to cross off one of each space on it's a roll and write in a sense. Each space on your player board has 2 areas you can shade that are different colors. So if I put the green in front of me, I'll shade a green area somewhere on my board. If I happen to shade all of the spaces around a boat, all 4 spaces around a boat, that's going to get me 4 bonus points at the end of the game. If I shade into one thing that gets me a little extra bit of Emperor's Favor, I can then spend Emperor's Favor later to do some interesting things with the dice. And then there's another one where when you fill it in completely, you get to shade in another one that's adjacent. So it's a spatial puzzle kind of game. You're trying to build certain shapes that you'll then lay onto your board that kind of create a fireworks pattern. Really clever, really fun little roll and write kind of game. So if that's your speed of game, I'd recommend it. I think Renegade did a really solid job with this one. The whole orienting dice and kind of determining who gets what is really an interesting part of it. It's hard to really study everyone's board so closely to have meaningful decisions for what everyone else gets. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Lanterns Dice. So yeah, Sean, is one that you've seen around Empire at all?
I have not. No.
Interesting. Yeah. I thought that thing was hotter than maybe it's not at retail yet. I don't know. Anyway, that's Lanterns Dice. That's what we played. Let's head on over to the news desk. All right, first up in news, Baseball Highlights 2045. First mention, just beat you, Sean. The news has nothing to do with Baseball Highlights, though I will mention I did finish out the 11-game league season and finished 5-6. I did not make the playoffs. Did very badly. All right, Sean, what's this first piece of news?
Okay, so yeah, you're just a dirty cheater, right? It needs to be done in an organic way, but that's fine. So we're going to talk about Magic the Gathering, first mention. And this was a mind-blowing news that I got this week. Netflix is coming out with the Magic the Gathering animated series to be led by Joe and Anthony Russo, the Russo brothers, who just came off of Avengers Endgame. And my first thought was, wait, is this April Fool's? Like, literally, I was like, wait, is today? Because I think I heard about it June 1st. And for some reason, I was like, oh, it's April Fool's. Because It blew my mind that much, Alex.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is pretty incredible. We don't have a date, but we're going to have some Magic the Gathering series that's going to feature the Planeswalkers, who are these like super powerful wizards who are able to travel between dimensions, basically, because there's different planes of existence that you go to. And it has an incredible list of heavyweight production people. So it's got Henry Gilroy, who worked on Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars. So there's some really good, animated series chops right there. Jose Molina, who did The Tick, and then Yoriaki Mochizuki.
Oh,
Mochizuki.
no.
I'm fumbling. Excuse me. Who worked on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was incredible. Have you seen that? You haven't seen that.
I have not, and I want to, but I have not seen it yet.
Everyone was like, "Oh, this movie's amazing. Oh, it's incredible. I can't believe how mind-blowing and mind-changing it was." I'm just like, it can't be that good. And then we watch it. I'm like, oh my God, it's that good. And then it's being done by Bardell Entertainment, which is the animation studio that does Rick and Morty and Teen Titans Go. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be in either of those aesthetics, but there's not a whole lot of information out right now. Like I said, we don't know when it's going to release, but just the mere fact that this is happening is super exciting, and I'm super looking forward to this. There was recently an animated trailer that they did for the War of the Spark release, which had I forget what music had over it, but it had like some pop music over it in a like a slower cover version of it, and it was really cool. It featured Liliana the Planeswalker and Nicole Bolas the Planeswalker, and it was really cool, and it really got a lot of people thinking like, wow, like we would totally support something like this, and so I'm very much looking forward to this whenever it comes out. And I heard someone say online, well, it makes sense that Netflix is doing this since at this point they're probably trying to gobble up any other properties that aren't owned by Disney at this point, because Disney owns everything.
Yeah, absolutely everything.
And they're probably pretty worried about the Disney streaming service that's coming out pretty soon, because that's going to have all the Disney stuff, all of the Fox stuff. Like it's pretty nutso.
Wow. Okay. Well, exciting for anyone who cares about that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Just this card game that's incredibly popular and it's been around for 26 years.
Yeah.
That small
no big deal.
niche group. Yeah.
Sure. I'm not in that group, but that's fine.
No, I know. It's an exclusive group, Alex.
Yeah. Very, very tight knit.
And besides, you would never belong to a group that would accept you as a member. So
that's right. I am Groucho Marx. I'm the Groucho Marx of this podcast.
Are you though?
I don't think I am. Anyway.
No, I don't think so either. Anyway.
Next bit of news. Capstone Games, in conjunction with Frosted Games, to publish Watergate, 2-player game from Matthias Kramer, one of those.
That's Kramer.
Who did Glenmore and Lancaster, Clemens Franz art. Sean, you were very excited about this piece of news.
No, I'm not. I'm actually really pissed off right now.
Oh.
I'm super pissed off. By the way, here's my little Capstone thing, right? Capstone's one of my favorite publishers. Every game of theirs that I've played, which is almost all of them at this point, has been a big wow. I love the games that Clay decides to publish. He and I are very simpatico in our taste in games. And when I saw this and when I read about this, I got incredibly pissed off because, Alex, for the last year, I've been working on a Watergate board game.
Okay. All right.
And so this game...
Is it Sean Gate? Is the name of it Sean Gate, or is it Water Sean?
It's Water Sean, of course. Yeah. So this game, the one that's coming out from Capstone, it's a card-driven game where one of you is a journalist trying to connect informants to the president, while the other is the Nixon administration trying to cover up evidence and make it to the end of the presidential term. And then each player has their own deck of cards that they're playing off of. So it's not like so it's a card-driven game, something like Twilight Struggle. It's not a shared deck of cards like in Twilight Struggle. They each have their own deck. And this is almost exactly what I was doing. This was exactly my plan, to do a card-driven game like Twilight Struggle with Watergate. So much so that in the last year, I've read 3 different books on Watergate as part of the research. I've probably watched like 15 hours of documentaries on Wargate. Wargate? Wow. Watergate within the last year. So I was like heavily invested in the research side of things. I had initial notes drafted up for for how the game would play out. My focus was actually the legacy of Nixon and whether or not you could keep his legacy up. Because while Nixon was his administration was trying to cover things up, he was also doing things to try and like going to China and doing things to make sure that he had a legacy. So that was kind of the focus of my game: is where is Nixon's legacy going to be, and how is it going to be affected if he's impeached or removed from office or whatnot. So yeah, I was a little bummed out. I mean, I'm excited for this game. I'm excited it's coming from Capstone, and I'm sure it's going to be really cool, and I'm really going to enjoy it. And I'm probably just going to play it pissed off the entire time because it's probably going to be really good, and I'm just kind of bummed out.
Oh, Sean. Oh, my sweet, sweet Sean.
Yeah.
It will all be okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Very cool. Well, that's Watergate coming from Capstone Games with Frosted Games at Gen Con. And finally, let's wrap things up with a Kickstarter. A Kickstarter for a little game called Dungeon Drop. Dungeon Drop. Sean, have you... I almost called you Shane, which would have been weird. That's my boss's name. Sean, have you heard of this game, seen this game, followed it all on Kickstarter?
So it's on Kickstarter, and it's not a P500 for GMT, correct?
Correct.
Then no. I'm looking at it now, and very, very cutesy art. I really like the art.
Oh, yeah. So this is a game that has a bunch of cubes, and you're going to drop the cubes onto the board. And the board is just kind of the table space in between all of your player cards. The cubes you drop are loot, but there are also goblins and trolls and different things that can do bad damage to you, a dragon. And what you're going to do on your turn is, after everyone's placed their meeple in the dungeon, you're going to pick 3 pillars, and those 3 pillars form a triangle. You'll get everything that's inside of that triangle. And that could be loot, it could be damage for you, it could be all sorts of fun stuff. Players can move their meeples around to try and get inside of your room. Your characters have different ways of manipulating things, but basically it's a drop a bunch of cubes on the table and then try and grab them off the table in such a way where you get the most points. That's it. Super simple, but a really successful Kickstarter right now. They're at $71,000 for a game that, is $16 to get your standard edition plus shipping, and $22 to get the deluxe edition plus shipping. So interesting.
And it looks like the deluxe edition basically has screen printed faces on the cubes.
Right.
So like your green goblins have little weird goblin faces, and the dragon has a screen printed dragon face. And then the meeples are also actually they don't look screen printed. I don't know. But yeah, so I think it's worth the $6 to probably upgrade.
There is a quote on here from Emerson Matsuchi, which I think fits the bill for this. And he says, quote, "This is one of those I wish I thought of that games." And it seems like that too. Oh yeah, you could just create a dungeon by dumping a bunch of cubes on a table, and it would be different and varied and potentially create an interesting game. And this looks interesting. And so I'm not surprised to see it doing as well as it's done.
Yeah.
Sean, is this one that you might back?
I'm going to look into this some more. Because if it's something that I can play with Chewie, and the basics of it, I think are pretty simple, and I think she would be able to do. There's some, I'm assuming, what are special powers that the characters have?
Yes, you build a hero and then class, or race and class, kind of typical fantasy D&D style, and each of them have special abilities.
Because this is the price point that I like on Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, this or a lot more, right? It's nothing in between.
This is a maybe. We've been playing a lot of Unicorn Glitterluck from Haba and a lot of Super Rhino Hero recently. And she's really been into like the actual gameplay of them. Whereas before we kind of just made up our own stuff. So I don't know, maybe it's nothing that is like a big wow for me, but it sounds fun. I'd certainly give this a try. And if it's something that I think Chewie would be able to do When's this fulfilling? Do we know?
It says estimated delivery February 2020.
Okay. So she'll be almost, oh my God, she'll be almost 6 at that point.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. I might jump in on this. I don't know for sure, but there's a chance. So in any case, a lot of other people have. As mentioned, it's at 71,000, well over its funding goal. July 3rd is when this project wraps up, so you still have a couple weeks to give it a look over and see if it's something that might be interesting. So that's Dungeon Drop, now on Kickstarter, and that is a look at the news. The game is afoot, Sean. It's afoot again. The game is afoot. It's a foot game. What am I talking about?
I say, Holmes.
Yes. What is it, Watson? I'm Holmes.
Did you see the Will Ferrell movie?
I did not. I heard it was absolute hot garbage.
It was really bad.
Yes. Well, you know what isn't really bad? Game Toppers. I hear Game Toppers are amazing.
I'm a big fan. Yes.
Where's this falling apart?
Everywhere. It's falling apart everywhere. No, I'm a big fan of Game Toppers. My buddy Ellie's got one. Alex, you have one.
I do have one, and I certainly enjoy it. It has definitely been an upgrade for the gaming experience at an affordable price. But guess what, Sean?
What's that?
If you want to get in on the next round of Game Toppers 2.0, with brand new models, new accessories, new thematic mats, new storage solutions, all of that stuff, there's a new Kickstarter coming, and it's not too far away, June 25th. June 25th. And if you collect the clues from an ongoing video series that's on Game Toppers LLC's website, well, guess what? You could be entered to win a premium 3mm stitched edge mat. These are amazing mats. And if you win the big contest, you could win a Game Topper package valued at more than $1,000. This is a big contest. Go to the link provided in the show notes here on the Dukes of Dice and enter the contest and let them know the Dukes of Dice sent you, because this is a big opportunity, Sean.
Absolutely. So June 25th, Alex, that's only 2 fortnights away from when we're recording this.
Yes, and possibly fewer depending on when you hear this episode.
Yeah, so just remember June 25th.
Go check it out. Game Toppers LLC, upgrading your gaming experience. General Ramirez, we're under attack.
Actually, I'm only a colonel. I've been demoted.
Colonel Ramirez, we're under attack, and you haven't been promoted.
Oh, you know what? I'm a major now. This is all falling apart.
Major Ramirez, we're under attack, and you've been demoted twice since our last conversation.
Yeah, it's really bad. I'm not good at this whole war thing, Alex. I mean, General Goldsmith.
Sorry. It was a general speaking to a fellow general.
Oh, Private Goldsmith.
Private Goldsmith. I am very private about my personal life. This is true.
I can't see your rank insignia, so I'm just not sure what you are.
Personally, I'm partial to Seaman Goldsmith. That's just me.
Wow.
Anyway, in Air, Land, and Sea from Arcane Wonders, you get to put yourself in the shoes of a general trying to win the field of battle, whether it be in the skies, on the ground, or, hey, in the water.
Wait.
That's right.
Did you just use all the synonyms for air, land, and sea?
I sure did. But I will say, in all seriousness, Sean, this is a fantastic 2-player game from Arcane Wonders. I tried it out personally at Gamma, and it was one I was looking to scoop up right away. I wanted him to give me the demo copy and let me walk away with it right then and there. I still don't have one yet. I really want one, Sean. I want it so bad. Air, Land, and Sea. This is a 2-player game where you're trying to control the different areas, but it uses card play in a really clever way. If you can control 2 of those 3 areas, you will win points. However, it pays in this game to make a strategic retreat, to lick your wounds and try and fight for a better day, because the earlier in the round you do that, the earlier in the round you give up the ghost, the less of a benefit your opponent will get if they should win. So, really a fantastic game. 2-player game. Love it. Check it out. It's from Arcane Wonders. Arcane Wonders. It's never a blunder when you go with Arcane Wonders. This week, we're taking a look at a game that puts you in the role of a gumshoe, or more, a team of them, equipped with high-tech technology, databases, real-world information. Can you crack the case? Regardless, is it a game worth trying to crack the case up? It's Detective.
Detective, a modern crime board game designed by Ignacy Trzewiczek, Jacob Lapotte, and, Przemysław Reimer. I am sorry, people. Anyway, this is a deduction board game, where, as Alex said, we are a team of investigators for the Centauri's group. Kind of reminds me of ISIS almost, from Archer. But not really. I guess that's more of a spy agency, right?
Yeah, not even close. What?
Okay, let's move on. Semi-governmental, quasi-private, investigative.
You are a mess.
Investigatory agency. There we go. We'll go with that. Investigative. There we go. I was throwing in an extra syllable for some reason. Anyway, let me say this, Alex. We have to be very careful. Very careful with what we say here.
Oh, yeah.
Because we cannot spoil anything. This is kind of a legacy game in a sense, or a campaign game. There is a story. There is an individual story for each case, and then all 5 cases are linked together. There's a meta thing going on, linking them all together. So we have to be very careful in this review that we're not spoiling anything, or even the hint of spoiling something. So if we're kind of stumbling around, that's why, not because of incompetence, but because of the difficulty here.
It might be incompetence too. Could be both.
Well, let's give them a reason to doubt that. So in this game, you are basically given a briefing by the agency. This is what's going on. There's some situation. There's been something with illegal goods that have happened, or maybe there's been a murder that's happened, and your objective is to find out. So let's go with the first scenario. The first scenario we can kind of mention, and there is a Nazi gold pocket watch, so something stolen from World War II that somehow wound up in this local auction house, and you have to figure out the chain of custody, how it got from wherever it was stolen from to this auction house, however many intermediate steps there may be in between. So that's the first one. And then I'm not going to say too much about anything beyond that.
Yeah.
And so you get your briefing, you get your objectives, and then you start off with some leads that you can follow. And so it will say, you can go check the lab, or you can go talk to this person, or you can interview this person, or you can go on site to this location and look into this. So you decide what you want to do, and it gives you a list of cards, because each scenario has a deck of cards. You don't go through them. You don't shuffle them. They're all numbered. The first deck is 101 to 130.
I think each of them has 30. Each of them has 30 cards.
Okay. And so basically you're like, okay, let's follow this lead. And like I said, to start, you might have several leads to choose from, and you pick which one you think you want to start with, right? And so it says, okay, go read card 133. So you go find card 133, and maybe it gives you some information. Maybe it's kind of a dead end and there's really nothing there. There's a little bit of background about what's happening, and then it might give you another lead or series of leads, which are then other choices you'll have to make. Or it might say, you get some information, but you think maybe this person isn't telling you enough, and you can spend a certain type of resource to flip this card over to kind of dig deeper. But you're limited on these resources that you have at the start of the game. And there are some ways with the different investigator powers that you might be able to replenish them or kind of manipulate them. But making that decision whether to flip the card over can be a tough decision because you have limited resources. Now, the big factor here is with each of these leads that you're following, it's going to take you a certain amount of time to do them. Each scenario is going to tell you how many days you have to complete the investigation. It might be 3 days, it might be 6 days, and you work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Really, I think 5 p.m., but it's that 4 p.m. hour, right?
Right.
And so each investigation or each lead that you follow is going to eat up some amount of time. Now, you can go into overtime, but doing that is going to cause stress to you. And at a certain point, when you've met a scenario determined stress threshold, you end immediately and have to make your final report to the agency right or wrong. And so you kind of need to manage that. So the interesting thing is when you go investigate something, you don't know how long it's going to take until you actually flip over the card. And once you see how long it takes, you're committed. And then in addition, there's also travel time. So it's just little small board, and it's got the headquarters, and then it's also got like the police department and the lab, and then out in the field. And whenever you move your team around, it eats up an hour just in the movement. So you have to be really, really judicious in how you're using your time. If you're spending a whole bunch of time in travel time, like you're doing poorly. And then you flip it over. This is how much time it takes. You move it up, and at a certain point, you're making the decision. Well, do we continue today? Do we, knowing that we might risk a 4-hour investigation in the field, which is going to put us 2 hours into overtime? Who knows? Now, eventually, you're going to get directions to read things on the Antares database, which is an online tool, a real online tool that everyone's logging in has access to on their phone or tablet or whatever. And it might say, okay, we want you to read questioning 103. And so maybe now it's this long interview, or maybe it's a picture or a map, and you're trying to get clues from that and piece them together. All the while, you're trying to deduce enough to do this as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and eventually get the correct answer. There's also some cool things where you may get these codes for evidence that might be blood samples or fingerprints, and you're able to insert the digits of the code into the database, and then based on things that you've collected previously, it could run probable matches. And you're like, cool, we've got evidence that this person's fingerprints are linked to this, or this person's DNA was found here, or whatever. Now, eventually, when you have run out of time, or you think you're ready to report, you make your final report, which is basically a series of questions. And it's scored somewhere between 30 and 40 points, depending on the scenario. And basically, it's multiple choice questions. I'm going to do some generic stuff. Who do you think was the murderer of Joe Smith? What type of weapon did they use? What was this seemingly random thing? How was this connected to this? And you can, if you know the answer, of course. If you don't know the answer, you can guess, but if you're wrong, there's a penalty. And so you answer all the questions, and then you plug in how many stress tokens you have, which are going to be negative points, 1 per. And then it spits out a score, and it might say, excellent, you did a great job, or you did an okay job. And then the head of the agency kind of runs you through, well, actually, while you were doing your investigation, I determined that this is really what happened. Like, well, then what are we doing here?
Yeah,
guy?
Come on, buddy.
But anyway, that's the quick and the short of it. Mechanics-wise, this game is dirt simple. But yeah, that's it. So, Alex, what were your initial expectations for Detective, a modern crime board game?
So deduction games, I have found, can be hit or miss. If it's deduction games a la Cryptid, which aren't necessarily story-based, but just pure deduction, I do not like them. But in certain cases, some of the kind of crime-solving games can go well. Although, say, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, I wasn't necessarily in love with either, the 1 or 2 times I'd tried that game. So I didn't know what to expect with this one. Obviously, it had been highly praised. I'd heard it was good. I knew it was supposed to be thematic, and I like games that have good stories and interesting stories. So I had some good expectations for this one. There was also some hope that it would be one that Abby would really like, because she enjoys true crime, and it seemed like the mechanics would be simple enough to where it would be an enjoyable experience for her. So all of those factors had me thinking it could be a good experience. What about you?
I had zero interest in this game.
Ooh.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so it's something that had been out for a while. It's been on Empire's shelf for a while. Nick had played it. Eugene had played it, but I had no real interest in playing it. And so even when we said, okay, we should review this, I was kind of like, oh, it's going to be a bunch of reading. And, Have you ever done any of the like Hunt a Killer, any of the subscription boxes?
Never. Nope. Not once.
So we did 3 months of one, Hunt a Killer. And I think I may have talked about it on the show. And the problem was it was so open-ended. It wasn't a game. And so you could very easily go down rabbit holes. And it wasn't particularly satisfying because you weren't sure if you were onto the right track, and there was nothing there to really say, yeah, good job, right? So we canceled after 3 months because we weren't really getting much enjoyment out of it. And so I thought it was going to be something like that, but with more of a game built onto it. And I was just like, I don't know. I'm not super interested. So yeah, that was my initial thoughts going into this review, into these plays. So,
rule book.
Yeah.
How did you find this game in terms of learning it?
So I actually watched Rodney, his watch it played.
So did I.
And I tell you what, that guy knows what he's doing. He is good.
he's going places. That guy.
So yeah, I watched his review. I had the rule book in front of me, and I have read the rule book. And I think it's pretty good. It's simple. It's a really simple game mechanically, right? It's super simple. You just have to make sure that you know exactly when to flip over cards, when not to flip over cards. There are a couple times when, and I can't really say how or why, but there are a couple times when there may have been certain things may have been unclear, but that's more of a scenario issue, not so much the rulebook issue.
Yep. Are you talking about scenario 3?
I am talking about scenario 3.
Okay. Well,
which we can't really go into detail.
Nope, sure can't, but I know what you're talking about because I think I ran into the same thing.
Yeah.
And I will say this, when I sorted it out, I was super proud of myself.
Nice. What I will say is there are some BGG posts out there that are very respectful of not spoiling, and they will say something like, so I'm just going to say this, treat this in this way, and they try and do it as minimally invasive as possible. Mm-hmm. So that's nice that that's out there, and it was a pretty big factor for scenario 3.
Yeah.
So,
yep. Yeah. Scenario 3, by the way, that's the one I played through. I wasn't able to get through the full campaign. I got through scenarios 1, 2, and 3 in time for this review.
Yeah, same here. Okay. It was just through 3. Cool. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I found that when I needed to look stuff up in the rulebook, I found it useful enough, and I also found the Watch It Played video really helped kind of piece it together. It was not a hard game to learn.
So as far as art and components, what were your thoughts?
Art and components. Let me think. I'm trying to think of anything that really stood out in terms of art and components. I mean, what's there is certainly high quality. And if we're talking components, right, a big part of the components is the crime database system that you're using, the one that you're logging into to get information, extra questioning clues, things like that. So I thought that was incredibly well done.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Gorgeous. Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes there are videos.
Right. Yeah, little videos, pictures, bio, all sorts of fun stuff in there.
Right. And as far as components wise, I mean, it's a small not player board, but a small board that goes in the center that's just your location and keeps track of the time. Maybe that could have been a little bit bigger. It's fine. I think it's fine. Little wooden, bits for your car that represents the party and things like that. And I think the card quality is good, and it's a solid production. Yeah,
I mean, it's not a game that is necessarily driven by art per se, right. But there's certainly nothing here that really gets in the way. A small note that when I was at UKGE, I met up with the folks at Portal briefly, and we did a little game trade as companies are wont to do. So I now have the LA Crimes expansion, but I also have a playmat that has room for cards and trackers and all sorts of other things like that.
Yeah.
So
okay,
pretty stoked with it. I wouldn't say it's a high point or low point of the game. I think the online parts of it are a high point. I think it's just gorgeous again. So it certainly doesn't hold the game back, which is exactly what you're hoping for in a situation like this.
Sure.
So yeah, no issues.
So as far as gameplay, Alex, how were you playing this? Was this just you and Abby?
Just me and Abby.
Okay. So for me, this is kind of interesting. So I had planned to get all my plays in prior to a week ago because we were going to originally record that weekend, right? And so I'm like, I kind of put off the plays because I was not looking forward to it. And then Sunday night, it was the Sunday before Memorial Day, Raquel and I went to Empire and we played the first scenario together at Empire. And then the next night, we were set to go to Rory's house. Rory and Marie invited us over for Memorial Day barbecue. We brought the girls with us. And I said, hey, would you guys like to play this? Rory's it's something he's wanted to play for a while. And he thought Marie would like it. And I knew Mariah would like this game. So we decided to play. And so I told them, okay, look, it's up to you guys. If you don't want to play this, it's fine because you didn't play the first scenario. I can kind of fill you in what we learned. And so I kind of provided the background. I mean, definitely you kind of need to play with the same group through. I think it was fine for what they did, but you wouldn't want people dropping in and out necessarily. And we got through it. And we all kind of looked at each other. It's late Monday night. And we said, hey, let's do this again tomorrow night. So we came back and did scenario 3 the next night. The 5 of us. Yeah. Now, does that tell you anything, Alex? That
it tells me something pretty good. Although what's interesting to me is that you haven't necessarily played through more at this point.
Well,
both of those tell me things.
Oh, okay. We certainly had the need to get the plays in, but I will say that after my first play with me and Raquel, we were both blown away.
Yeah.
And after the second game with the 5 of us, Rory, Marie, Mariah, they were blown away. And we're happy to play it again. After the third night, we actually made plans to do it again the following Saturday, but then Rory and Marie had to cancel.
Okay, got it.
And it was actually, and of all people, it was actually Marie that was like, hey, let's get back together. Because she games a decent amount, but I don't think she would call herself a gamer necessarily. But she was the one that's like, yeah, we need to finish this up because we all decided we wanted to finish this up together. And we're also looking at the LA expansion. This was a hit for us, a big time hit for us.
Yeah.
So we can't talk about story or the narrative. How did you guys play the game? Because there are different things that need to get managed, right?
Right. Yeah, leads need to get managed, making connections needs to get managed, keeping track of evidence, cards, those sorts of things. Managing your pool token, managing where the car is, managing how much time you have. And also someone has to read all the cards because there's a lot of stuff to read. So here's how it worked for us. Abby had a notebook, and she would take notes and write down available leads, write down information that would seem to be relevant, and she was kind of the in charge of keeping track of that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of the reading. She did some of the reading, and then I did more of the management of the game board pieces, our available tokens, our what we wanted to look into, those sorts of things. So. Okay. Yeah, that was the way we split things up. I'm assuming in a 5-player game, though, that's no problem. Everyone gets one little individual role, and you're good to go. Not really.
Yeah. Well.
Uh-oh.
So let's see. I think I did everything, other than taking notes. Everyone had their own notes. I think that given, man, maybe I'm just a control freak. It might be that I'm a control freak.
I think it might be that, yeah.
But there's also, there's kind of a shared duty for the tokens. Chewy was actually moving the tokens for the time and the location. That was her job. Okay. In between playing on her Nintendo Switch.
Sure.
And then but here's what I would try to do, right? Like I would try to like delegate things out. Because no one really wanted to enter things into the database because I had a laptop with me. Everyone else had their phones. everyone wanted me to read, and that meant that I was reading things. Sometimes I'd read things off the Antares database. I mean, usually I'd prefer not to, because it's a ton of reading. And I'd rather say, okay, everyone, let's go look at, questioning 103 or whatever. But I think just to keep the game moving, because this can take a long time. I mean, this should be like a 2 to 5 hour experience.
Each scenario.
Given the scenario, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they tell you, like, if you just start, like, flipping cards and going from one lead to the next without really digesting everything, not talking things through, then you're going to have this sprawling spider's web that's going to be way too difficult to navigate. You're not going to do well. So I think that me handling the mechanics of the game helped everyone to focus on the clues and trying to deduce things and put things together. I'm just taking one for the team, Alex, is all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. That's a long time since we've had that term come up.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. It's interesting that wasn't more delegated, because they have some suggested rules in the back of the rule book for how you can divide up the labor, so to speak.
Correct. And so again, knowing that I'm kind of controlling the mechanics, I directed the conversation, but I was very cognizant in making sure everyone had a very active voice.
Sure. Yeah, and this is a game where you could have an alpha gamer issue, right?
Yes.
Someone kind of completely taking over the investigation. So, yeah, being cognizant of that and avoiding that, I think, is important to enjoying your plays of the game.
Correct.
Yep.
Big time. Yeah.
Yep. So, Sean, it's kind of tricky with this one, because so much of the enjoyment of this is wrapped up in the story, right? In the theme of the game. To talk about it purely on a mechanical basis is tricky. I will say this. I think the incorporation of real world elements, because the game encourages you to, in certain sections, look this up on, say, Wikipedia, or look this up on Google Maps, or look this up on wherever else. Because of those elements, that incorporation, I think, is brilliantly done, and it makes the story of this game come alive in a way it might not otherwise.
Right. And what's interesting is, like, with looking things up. So, well, let's see. How do I put this? So it tells you, okay, look up this term. You don't need to look this up to solve the case, but it's going to provide you context, which may help you understand certain things. Like, so for example, no, maybe not.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe not. But yeah, so that's kind of interesting. I will say that in the third scenario, it does say, you know what? You can just search at will, because typically it's if this particular symbol is next to a word in the scenario booklet or in on one of the cards or on something you find on the database, you can look that up. But in the third scenario, they're just like, have at it. Whatever you want to look up, you go look up.
Yeah. Which
was kind of interesting and was very interesting for the third scenario.
Yeah. Very interesting is an interesting way of putting that. What I will say, without, again, spoiling things, is I do like how the cases can have changes of pace to them, at least from the ones I've played, that they don't all feel the same. It doesn't feel like you're doing just another case. They try and throw twists into the formula.
No, I think it does a very good job of not making this feel samey. And I got to tell you, man, there are some highs and lows to this game, because sometimes it'll kind of give you an indication that you're on the right track. So it will award these authority tokens, which are a type of currency that you can use to turn on individual investigators' abilities. And so whenever you've gone down a particular trail, and let's say you flip the card over, and it says blah, 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 you find out all this information, get an authority token. You're like, okay, even if it may not give you another lead or a piece of evidence, it's basically telling you that this particular theory you've been working on is the right way to go, and it might point you in a different direction, but you know you're on the right track. And sometimes it might say, well, you talk to this person and they don't remember anything and you're stupid. You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
you wasted time, dummy.
oh, that was 3 hours. Holy cow. And then it can be really nail biting when you're getting to the last day and the last couple of hours. And you're just like, look, we have these 3 things we need to do. We can only do one of them. Which one makes the most sense based on what we've learned? And there's this, with the 5 of us, we had this fantastic debate. It was great being able to deliberate with that many people, because there were things that people would remember that I may not have remembered, right? There are things that people may have keyed on that I may have disregarded and thought was not important. And they bring it up and I'm like, oh, that's okay. That's a good point. And you're making these deductions, and sometimes these deductions pay off, right? And sometimes they don't. Or sometimes you'll get a clue, you'll go on a lead and you'll be like, man, I wish we had followed that lead first, because if we had done that first, it would have given this piece of information to help us with this other lead. And I didn't listen to Rory. Rory wanted to do this. And it's like, so really, I mean, really cool feels in this game. I mean, we were invested. We were super invested in this game all the way through, all 3 scenarios.
Did you fail any of the scenarios?
Yes.
Was it scenario 3?
We failed scenario 2.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. But we succeeded on scenario 3.
Interesting. So we flipped those for Abby and I.
Yeah.
We failed hard on scenario 3 the first time around, and then succeeded. And scenario 2 we killed. That was our best one out of all of them.
Yeah. So for us, scenario 2 came down to a coin flip, basically. But it was the primary question. Like we basically got all of the other questions right.
Yep.
And then it was a question of, okay, but who's actually, what's the main question you're trying to answer here? And it came down to a coin flip for us. And we didn't have enough evidence in front of us to know. And we debated not answering, and then we debated let's go ahead and answer. And we argued why it would be option A versus option B for like half an hour. And ultimately we had enough things in one column why it should be this, that we made the call, but we were wrong. And it was heartbreaking. It was just heartbreaking. And the problem with the 5 of us, right, is that replaying a scenario is not really an option. If it were just me and Raquel, we would totally do it. But with the 5 of us,
so did you just move on? You didn't go back and redo it?
We did. And you have that option, right? It'll tell you. It'll say, in the database after you do your final report, it'll say, okay, would you like to play this again? If you do, click here. If you'd like to move on, you won't be able to come back to this case. You can click here, and so you make that decision. I would say that if it were me and Raquel, we'd probably replay it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's something interesting, something very meta about you take your wins and you take your losses. Because there's no create a save point in real life, and some cases get solved and some don't. And there are things that you can learn in scenario 1 that are going to affect scenario 4.
Yeah.
For example.
Okay.
And you may not have time to actually go and do that. And it's interesting because by the time you're through with a scenario, you have probably only seen 40 to 50% of the cards in the deck.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Right. There's so many different ways you could try and solve this case, but replaying it, I will tell you, is not necessarily the most fun experience.
No, and that's what we figured. Because what I thought of, and I think the comparison that I'm making is with a game like Time Stories, which you and I were not fans of. We only played it the one time, right? You haven't played it again, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Time Stories has that kind of built in, right?
Yeah.
You are trying to figure something out, solve something, and kind of similar to this in certain ways. But you're going to fail eventually, because then you're just going to reset the time loop and you have to go through the motions of doing all these things again. And so I was thinking about that. I'm like, I don't want to replay this. that just does not sound fun because you're going through the motions. It just did not sound fun to me.
Yeah, it was, of the experiences we had, the least fun experience was replaying through a case, because you have to go dig through. Okay, went down this path, maybe we do this differently, maybe we do that. Okay, I don't know. And I will tell you, replaying scenario 3 specifically was less fun than maybe some of the other ones might be.
Yeah.
Anyway, that being said, I think this game's brilliant.
Yeah.
And the computer database, that mixing of the card system, the tokens, that you can't look into everything, the hard choices you have to make, the fact that those choices mean something ultimately. It's brilliantly done. It's a brilliantly done game.
Agreed. Yeah. Absolutely agreed.
Theme story, do we want to talk much more about that?
Well, so here's what we can discuss.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were in the middle of an investigation? Did you feel like you were FBI or, I mean, it's hard to say given that neither of us are law enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay.
500%. I mean, one of the most thematic games I've played.
Yes. No, I think so. I felt, and there's a certain amount of investigation I do in certain cases in my day job. And I have, when you get a stack of 1,000 pages and you have to go through hours and hours and hours and comb through it for just one little nugget of information that's going to be useful. And you find it, it's incredible. Like, I'll frequently be in my office, be reading through something, and I'll just yell out, "Oh my God, I found it!" Like, because it just blew the case wide open or changed something or whatever. And that's how this felt. But instead of taking 15 hours of work, it was 3 hours of work, and it was a much more neat, condensed, interesting narrative than what I would deal with in my job.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does.
I will say that at the end of it all, I was exhausted. And in some ways it felt like doing work.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, taking notes and digging through things and entering stuff in the data. Yeah, absolutely. It had moments of that, but the story and the game itself is so engaging. Right. I don't mind that. Right.
It was funny. So the Tuesday, which was the day we did case 3, was the day after Memorial Day. I had an 8-hour deposition that I took that day. I was in a room with the opposing party in this case, and we went through like 500 pages of documents, 500 pages of emails he had sent to my client. And it was exhausting. I was exhausted. We don't normally do depositions in family law. It's not something we typically do. But for a variety of reasons, we did in this case. And I was exhausted by the time we got to Rory Marie's Tuesday night. But after a little bit, I was like, okay, I'm into this. I'm having fun. And it was, I think it was a good scenario for me being exhausted, if that makes sense. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I can't really explain that without explaining anything about the thing. So moving on.
Yeah. I think we've taken this train as far as we can take it.
Yeah.
Let's get to guild thoughts. Adam Dalton says, I have played Detective twice. I hope to never play it again. I hated it. After playing it and doing a quasi-escape room as a team builder at work, I realized I just do not like co-op deduction games at all. I don't want to have to come to a single conclusion from a bunch of clues. I'd rather have a more open discovery and come up with multiple ideas trying to get to a goal. I very much disliked that we were a whole team, but all 4 of us had to go to the same location. My wife, though, loved the game so much that she bought it herself and played through the whole game solo. Wow. Because of this, I give the game a 2 on the Ducal scale. It has to have some merit. It just isn't for me. Man.
So I think that this is going to be very hit or miss. I really do.
Sure, I could see that.
I think that a lot of things go into this, right? I mean, if you're going in for a quick game, you're not going to enjoy this. You have to spend 3 to 5 hours, right? Let me put this out there. Think of a game like The Resistance or Avalon or whatever. the game is not the mechanics, right? The game is the discussion among the players, the deduction, why I think it's you and why it couldn't be you. And certain people don't like that. Certain people are like, hey, let's just vote. Let's just go on the mission. And we're like, well, no, we got to figure this out. And so I think if at a certain point, just based on preference, you're like, okay, let's just let's look at the next lead. And some people are gonna be like, well, no, I want to go back over this report for the fourth time to see if there's something we missed. Yep. Because guess what? You probably missed something.
Sure.
And so there's a certain work ethic involved in this game, which is crazy. And if you're not willing to put that in, and a lot of people may not be, and that is totally fine. Again, just based off preference. And so I think that if there is someone alpha gaming, again, yes, I'm fully cognizant I was kind of controlling all the mechanical parts of the game, but I was making sure everyone was having a voice. Like I was very actively aware of that. But I think people can ruin this game if they are alpha gaming or, shooting down ideas or whatever. So I think this is love it or hate it.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
I don't think anyone's going to be just so on it. I love this game or I hate this game.
Dr. Gumbo, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, says, we played Detective's special con scenario at Gen Con 51, and it remains one of the top 2 or 3 gaming highlights of 2018. We debated, discussed, and deducted our way for 3 hours, which is a lot for one game at Gen Con. I'm still convinced we had the right motive for the murder, no matter what Ignacy says. Strong contender for the award, as Detective is fresh, innovative, and a great engine for great stories. And I think that's the thing here, too. You're going to play through these 5 cases one time. You might get anywhere from 10 to 20 hours, thereabouts, of play from the cases in here. But it, much like Time Stories, it has the bones to play with more cases, as we've seen with LA Crimes. This is not going to be the end of the road for Detective. The system that they've developed is too strong for them to stop with just a couple of case packs.
Well, and I'll say this. They just announced the signature designer series for Detective. So they've got Rob Davio creating some scenarios. They've got Mike Selinker creating some scenarios. Both, I think, are very good storytellers in this board game medium. And I'm super excited to know that there's more content, and I'm super excited to know they've brought people like that in to create it. So I am totally on board. What I will say, and this was my one nitpick, was speaking of this, the con scenario, basically it's a one shot. The way the rulebook makes it sound is you can just download it and play it off the website. And you can't. You have to send away for a $10 deck of cards from Portal.
Okay.
What's kind of annoying because Monday night on our second play, that was the plan. I was like, okay, Raquel and I, we need to wait for Rory, Marie, and Mariah. And so Raquel and I will just play this one-shot scenario just so I get the third play of it in. And then when I looked into it, I was like, oh crap, we can't do that. We can't get the cards here in time. And that was kind of annoying that the rulebook led you to believe that. Unfortunately, Rory and Marie, they took one for the team and for the podcast. And they're like, all right, well, let's do it tomorrow night. So.
All right. Well, Sean, we have arrived at that point. Oh, wait. There's one more set of guild thoughts, which I recorded earlier with Abby. All right, back in at the end of the review, which I am recording this before the review. But I want to get Abby's thoughts because I played through all of the cases that I played through for this review with Abby. So I'm going to run you through our review steps. Quick answers to all of these. First one is expectations. When I told you about Detective, when I told you what the experience might be like, when you saw the game, all of those kind of things, what was your impression of what this was going to be like?
I was excited. I am a true crime junkie. I spend most of my days at work listening to true crime podcasts, and much to your chagrin, I watch a lot of true crime TV shows and documentaries. So you were like, it's like a true crime board game. So I was kind of like, sounds cool, sounds interesting. And then when you were like, we can use the internet, like the real live Google internet, and also they have this cool interactive database that we can use, and the cards, and how it was kind of like cooperative and everything. I was excited. It seemed very cool.
In terms of rulebook, how easy was this game to learn?
Super easy. I don't like rules. I don't like complicated games. If it takes you more than 10 minutes to explain a game to me, you've probably lost me. And yeah, this was cool. Easy.
Didn't run into any hiccups. I don't think there were a ton of things we had to look up.
Nope. I think as long as you grasp the moving of time and the moving of days, then you've pretty much got it.
Graphics and components, look of the game, quality of the game, without spoiling that one thing, quality of what's presented here.
Cool. Fantastic. Really nice. Easy to navigate around. I did find the table would kind of get a little cluttered by the end of the case. But also that was on our part of like shuffling through old things and looking through it and trying to figure stuff out. So
did you find things like the icons on the cards easy to read, kind of the language of the game, so to speak?
Yeah. And it's very consistent from case to case. So once you make it through case one, you're going, oh yeah, okay, this makes sense. Now, yep. Oh, I want to do that. No, I want to do that.
Yeah, and then the rules with tokens and overtime and things like. I mean, I think I ended up managing that one a little bit more, maybe. But
yes.
But it seemed like you understood those rules when they came up.
Yep.
Cool. All right, let's get into gameplay. What about this had you like it or not like it? What about actually playing this game hooked you or didn't hook you?
I really liked this one because it felt less like a mechanical board game. And like, I was talking to you about this after we had done the first case when we were on our walk, and it felt like a puzzle. Like it felt like one of those really cool puzzles that you did in 7th grade when you had a substitute teacher and they were like, all right, here you go. It's like one of those mind map puzzles, and you just got to sit and figure it out. Okay, this is this and this is this. And it was, it's a fun game. Like you're trying to beat it, but also you don't know if you beat it until the very end. So there isn't this like settled feeling until you get there or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, did it feel like you wanted that true crime sense? Were those puzzles engaging? Did you like kind of building the case and investigating? And did it feel robust enough in that way?
Yeah, I think so. I think for us, so we've played through 3 cases of the 5 at this point. And I think for case 2, it felt a little bit like heavier in the sense of like more to wade through. Case 1 kind of clicked together easier, I think. So then, but that also, we were playing it later at night, and I'm not good at being up late, and so that might have had something to do with it. But yeah, I think there's enough variety. You don't feel like you're doing the exact same thing each case after case, but like the mechanics still kind of correlate through all of it.
How satisfying were some of the solutions, or were some of what you were doing in the game?
I think it's satisfying. Look at the first case when we completed that one, and it was like, oh, we did it. We got it. Congratulations. And then how frustrating it was when we didn't get case 3 on the first go round, and we were like, ah, and just like immediately after we finally beat the case, have like this post-mortem of like, well, we should have done this, and we should have done that, and had we done this, and had we done that, and this like all these different possible scenarios, I think, prove that the game is intriguing and interesting. Does
it blend, because it seeks to really blend the physical, the cards in front of you, that kind of space with the online, whether it be being able to use the internet or being able to use that database? Were those parts of that well incorporated and fun? Yeah.
I think, like, historically, I've learned stuff from this case because it uses real-life events from World War II, which I wasn't super familiar with some of these battles and operations and stuff like that were happening. So that's kind of interesting to get to read those Wikipedia pages and learn that. And then the use of Google Maps and the use of this database that kind of links things together. And you're going, oh, it's a match. Ooh, like, oh, this person's this person's this. And in the details they have in there it's really well done.
Thematically, to what degree did you feel like a detective?
I mean, like 0% did I feel like a detective.
That was not the answer I was expecting.
No, it didn't feel like a detective. I felt like a person at home trying to figure out a puzzle, like a mind puzzle. It's still fully fun and engaging for me, but definitely did not feel like a detective.
So you didn't feel that immersed in the story ultimately?
No. As much as they wanted to describe the food I was eating to me, that really didn't feel important to the story. nor important to my mission as a quote-unquote detective.
Okay. All right, then final thing. The last thing we have to do, wrap up your summary of thoughts on this, and then the Abby scale score.
Good game. I would say great for people who aren't super duper into board games, but like playing a game and doing something that's not like sitting on the couch watching TV. I think it's good for, we did it as 2 and I was fine with that. 4 could be cool. 5 could be cool. It might get a little bit with that many people, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Would recommend. Give it a yeah on the Abby scale.
That's another 5. 2 5s. She's yaying all over the place.
So many yeahs.
So many yeahs. All right. Thank you for joining us, Abby.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, now we're at that point, Sean. We're at the final thoughts and rating, and this is going to get a higher rating than you anticipated going in. What does it ultimately get?
Okay, so we rate things here at the Dukes of Dice on a 6-point scale. A 1 is poorly designed but playable, not necessarily fun. A 6 is an all-time favorite that is a contender for the top 10. So Alex, this is not a 1, 2, or 3. This is not a 4. This is a 5 or a 6 for me.
Mm-hmm.
So for reference, a 5 is a great game. We'll rarely turn down a play of it. I'm going to give this a 6, Alex.
Woo, baby. Woo, hot dog.
An all-time favorite that is a contender for the top 10. We had so much fun with this game. It was so good. And the problem's going to be, if there's going to be a problem, is can this level of content continue?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be fine playing this once or twice a year, or playing through a case or a linked series of linked cases, right? Playing through one of those, 4 or 5 times, right, to get through it. Actually, the LA one only has 3 scenarios, right?
I think so. 3 cases.
Okay, and that's fine. I think that's probably reasonable. Playing through it, waiting for the next one to come out, because it's not a game like Zolkin or like Kemet that you can just keep playing over and over and over again. So it's judged on a slightly different scale, but I think that the sheer amount of enjoyment we had from this game, the debates that we had, the aha moments that we had were just incredible. It was just a great narrative experience. And I mean, I'm really looking forward to playing Scenario 4 and Scenario 5. I'm really looking forward to getting the LA one. And again, a year from now, 2 years from now, if the content isn't as compelling, that's going to affect the score. And so almost you have to rate each individual case, right? I think. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Not each individual scenario within a case, but I'm saying the body of scenarios.
Right. The whole thing is, yeah, exactly.
So I would say then, the mechanics are fine. The narrative that's being told is fantastic. And so for this first case of 5 scenarios, assuming 4 and 5 are as good, even if they're like half as good as the first 3 scenarios, it's still going to be a solid 6 for me.
Yeah.
Alex,
okay.
What are your thoughts?
Here's the thing. If I hadn't replayed Scenario 3 over again, I might be immediately right there with you with a 6.
Okay.
Because the highs I've had with this are right there with the kind of highs that I had on Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Sure.
The kinds of twists and narrative engagement. And the bones of this game are so good, and the story that's been put over it has been so good so far. For some reason, there was something really frustrating about Scenario 3 that has me hesitating. And so much like I did with Pandemic Legacy Season 1, where I said, I don't know, we'll see where we are, and then eventually was, no, okay, this is a 6. I'm sitting right there at that point, too. I think I need to finish out the rest of these cases to know for sure exactly where this one sits. So I'm going to give this thing a provisional 6. Provisional box cards. If cases 4 and 5 hold up the way that I think they will, then this will be no problem. But if we run into a hiccup kind of like we ran into with case 3, we'll see. We'll see. I will tell you, though, I agree. I've had some incredible highs with this game.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliantly done system, and I'm kicking myself a little for not getting to it sooner.
Agreed. No, I absolutely am. I mean, this is if we're gonna pick like biggest surprise of 2019, this would be it for me. I mean, I was so not interested in this game whatsoever. Even like I said, even when we decided to review it, I was still not interested in playing it.
It exceeded my expectations as well.
Yeah, incredibly so. Now, I have not played Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Does this make you want to go back and try that again?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
It's one of those where one would replace the other for me.
Sure.
With Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, I think you have more cases, and I think, Sean, you might really dig that kind of a game, digging through newspapers and chasing. It has that same kind of piece to it, but that crime system, the digital component to this one, and some of the other ways of interacting, and other surprises along the way with the game, I think is what really has it be in such a way where I would have a hard time going back to that kind of game from this. I don't know. Give it a try. See what you think.
And I feel like this could be my time stories. Like, Jake and Danielle from Draft Mechanic, they love time stories, and they're always excited when the new one comes out. They do certain spoiler episodes that they've done in the past to discuss it, which actually might be kind of interesting, something for us to consider doing with this. Because I would love to talk through certain things right now, but I can't.
Yeah, can't do it.
No. So
maybe if we both finish out all 5 cases, we can do a special Dukes of Dice spoilery episode.
Totally down. Totally down for that. So real quick, before we wrap up the review, now we have played all 3 Kennerspiel games.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What is our favorite of the 3?
Oh, boy.
And then what is our prediction for the winner? So for me, it's Detective. Detective is my favorite of the 3.
And is it your favorite for the award? It's tough.
I feel like Carpe Diem's going to win.
Really?
I do.
Oh, that would be a travesty.
I'm not happy about it at all.
See, you have the weird dark horse picks in both categories. That's interesting.
I feel like Detective is too much for where this award has been.
What about Exit the Game? It's closest to Exit the Game. That's its closest Kennerspiel comparison.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But this is like an order of magnitude in terms of complexity and time length above Exit.
Maybe. Not complexity in terms of mechanics.
No, but in terms of everything else.
My favorite for the award still remains Wingspan. I think Detective may be my favorite of the 3, though.
Yeah.
I think in order, if I'm ranking favorites, Detective, Wingspan, then Carpe Diem.
I think we mentioned in the last episode that it's kind of like the Academy Awards, where they're giving the award to the director for an award they should have won years before for a different movie, but
that would be the only reason Carpe Diem would win. The only reason. Well, seriously,
I think that, man, why are you so down on Carpe Diem? You liked it.
Just in comparison. It's just in comparison to the others.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about what we've seen in terms of the awards recently. You're right with Exit.
It's hard to tell,
but I feel like also it's a matter of availability and a matter of what people have had access to. And I feel like Detective is not an accessible game in a certain sense.
Accessible in terms of easy to play enough times to get a good sense of it, or accessible in terms of getting a copy?
No, in terms of getting it to the table and getting enough plays of it in. And I mean, I think Carpe Diem is not a love it or hate it game. Wingspan is not a love it or hate it game, but I think Detective is. And I think that you're cutting out a huge number of people that hate it, right?
I think sometimes they like acknowledging innovation. Honestly,
sure.
It depends on what they're trying to do, right? If they go down the theory of a longtime game designer who's deserved to have some sort of recognition in the category, it's going to be Carpe Diem. If they're going in terms of what's the hit of the year, so to speak, kind of the terraforming Mars of the year, then they're going to go Wingspan. And if they're going most innovative, then they're going to go down to Detective. I honestly, you could see them going any which way, but I think of those 3, I would be most upset if Carpe Diem won.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's my least favorite of the 3 by far.
Well, cool. That'll do it for the review. A tentative Boxcars Award winner, Detective, a 6 from Sean, and a provisional 6 from me.
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out Dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double Take.
Finally, this episode, let's take a look at our Duke's Double Take. We're looking back at Altiplano from episode 176, Alpaca Ex Machina. Sean, at the time, you gave this one a 3 and said you would rather play Orleans. Mm-hmm. In a bit of a surprise, I gave this a low 4. I said, I'm intrigued. I want to get better. But I didn't have as much fun as I did with Orleans. And you said during the episode, and I thought this was very prescient, spoiler alert, Alex, you won't play this again. Sean, guess what? I haven't played it again.
Yeah.
Nor have I really wanted to. So by that metric alone, it's going to be a 3. Game is okay, not exciting. We'll play in the right situation. Sean, have you played this game since?
No. In fact, I gave it away.
You got rid of it.
Much too late.
Yeah, it took a long time.
Took a long time. But in our Belong Somewhere Else in the Duchy, I did give it away. It is a fine medium weight Euro. It is a fine bag builder. You're gathering all these resources and you're building your bags and you're putting them on your action board to perform certain actions, to do it again. And it's fine. It's good. It's just, I'm keeping it a 3. Game is okay, not exciting. We'll play in the right situation. I won't refuse to play this game, but I will never think to pull it out. And
Sure.
I will almost always, not almost always, I will always say, hey, you know what? Instead of Altiplano, let's just play Orleans.
Sure.
Let's just do that instead.
Sure.
I don't think it gets to the level of a 2 for me. There has to be some.
The game isn't bad enough on its own merits to warrant a 2. Yeah, I get you.
No, it's not. It's not. So it's going to stay at a 3.
Ian Kissel weighed in on the guild. He said, I played Altiplano one time, and that was enough. I didn't feel the change from a pool builder in Orleans to a deck builder with tokens was one that I really liked. This game took far too long, as it seemed like you couldn't play simultaneously as much. The spatial aspect didn't end up being as cool as I wanted. In the end, it just felt like a worse version of Orleans. Ducal 3.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That's a quick double take. Drops from a low 4, which was kind of weird in the first place, to a 3 for me, and stays right there at a 3 for Sean. Finally, though, before we wrap everything up, this was a very good week for naming the episode, Sean. A very good week. Just about any one of these could have been the name. And that's not true every week. It's not true every week. But this week it was true.
Yeah, sometimes we throw one in that is, it was cute and it was fun, but it was too long or too convoluted to actually be the winner. This week, any one of them, like you said.
And let's start it off pretty good here with Todd Kauk with Bookem Plano, or Plano.
Or Plano.
Referencing Bookem Dano from some TV series that I don't know offhand.
Hawaii Five-0.
Hawaii Five-0, there you go.
I didn't think you would know the reference. Now, you didn't know the show, but you at least knew it was a reference to a TV show.
Correct,
so.
yeah, I knew Bookem Dano, but
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, Sean, for this next one, he actually changed his name to make it easier to pronounce for you.
Okay, so J. Osh-I-N Gur.
Oh, man. So much trolling.
Joshian Gur. So wait, now I'm completely lost. This is actually making it harder, Alex.
Just say Joshian Gur. That's how it's written.
Joshian Gur. Okay. He suggested Detective Alpacachu.
Nope. Alpacachu. Like Pikachu. Come on.
Hey. I'm going to pronounce things how I want to pronounce things. Have you seen Detective Pikachu, Alex?
I have not.
I figured you would have by now.
I wanted to, and I will at some point. I did get caught up on the Creed movies on the flight back from the UK, right. Both of which were pretty good.
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, did a great job. BJ from Board Game Gumbo came with the name, I sheared the sheriff, but I didn't shear the deputy.
Okay, you recovered there in the end.
Anyway.
You were way off key in the first part.
Whatever.
Yeah, I sheared the sheriff. That's a fantastic title.
Yeah.
And then Chris Holmes suggested High Crimes. Hold on. Okay, I got this. High Crimes and I like this one so much. Yeah. High Crimes and Misty Bleaters.
Yep.
Not misdemeanors, Misty Bleaters. The bleating that you would hear from the alpacas / llamas. And Misty because we're on the Machu Picchu where you were, right?
Yep.
It's up high, lots of mist.
Sure.
Very good title.
Very good title. And finally, Baker Mitchell with Llama Ask You a Question.
Very nice.
Very nice. Solid work. So, but there had to be one winner, and the winner this week was Ben Ogden. The game is Ahoof. The game is Ahoof.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go feed the family some ice cream, Alex. So
Yep. I'm gonna go eat some food, hang out with my sweet sassy Abby, and go watch the Blues.
all right. Well, until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Duke you later, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on June 9th, 2019. Our theme music provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out Dicetowernetwork.com. And for all the latest in the Duchy, go to DukesofDice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Arcane Wonders and Game Toppers, LLC. You can check out all of Arcane Wonders' awesome titles at ArcaneWonders.com and learn more about Game Toppers and their upcoming Kickstarter at GameToppersLLC.com. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Until then, game on!